Hi, today I'm going to teach you about the cerebrum, the external superficial features of the cerebrum.
This topic, cerebrum. Cerebrum is a part of our brain that's called prosencephalon. Prosencephalon has two parts, telencephalon and diencephalon. Okay, telencephalon is the cerebral cortex, right? And then diencephalon is the portion of the forebrain that is in between the two cerebral hemispheres. That's the diencephalon. In diencephalon, the cavity of the diencephalon is the third ventricle, and the cavity of the telencephalon, that's the cerebral hemispheres, is the lateral ventricle. The ventricular system has also been taught to you. It was taught very early in the neuroanatomy introduction portion, I think. So, this study of neuroanatomy, we started from caudal to the rostral and spinal cord. Then you have, the brainstem, cerebellum. The important I'm telling you is that's called rhombencephalon, right? Rhombencephalon has been covered. Then metencephalon, myelencephalon, they were part of the rhombencephalon, that's been covered. Then mesencephalon, that's a midbrain, that also has been covered. Now, while we are teaching here, I'm teaching here is this prosencephalon. This I'll be teaching from from outside to inside. That is, first I'll be covering the telencephalon and then the diencephalon. Okay, so and you remember there were two cranial nerves, right? There were two cranial nerves. They were arising from the forebrain, and these were the olfactory and optic nerves. So there will be the primary centers for visual cortex and olfactory cortex. You will be studying about those areas again here. So this is about cerebrum. So let's begin now. Okay, so this you're seeing is the cranial cavity, which encloses the brain. And the brain, in general, common parlance, we call brain means all that CNS which is confined within the cranial cavity, we call as brain. But literally, in Latin terms, brain is referred to the cerebrum, right? So, and in general, we consider brain means किसी भी इंसान से पूछो भाई what is brain? Brain is something which is enclosed in the cranial cavity. That is a general parallel, but actually speaking, brain means the cerebrum. That's a Latin word, brain means cerebrum. And cerebellum, I told you, it is the mini brain, the small brain. This is what in Latin. Now about this cerebellar hemispheres, cerebrum is like divided into two cerebral hemispheres, right and left cerebral hemispheres, and by this median longitudinal fissure which divides into two cerebral hemispheres, right and left, and both the cerebral hemispheres are connected by this broad band of commissural fibers called the corpus callosum. Before that, let me tell you that how it appears on the surface. The outer surface of the cerebrum has a lot of corrugations. It has sulci and gyri, and these sulcus and gyri, the purpose, as I told you in cerebellum also, the purpose of this is to increase the surface area of the gray matter, right? So if a broad area has to be accommodated within a smaller area, obviously that has to get folded upon itself to accommodate the more of gray matter. That is happening here also. So that means the total surface area of the cerebral hemisphere, if you talk about cerebrum, the total area, it means right and left cerebral hemispheres, the total area is around 2000 centimeters square. And that comes around to, 2.6 something square feet, 2.6 square feet, right? And for a long time memory, to remember this, something related to 1 feet square. Let's say a handkerchief, a hanky, a normal hanky is around 1 feet square. In male, there are hankies of female and male all differently in the market. If you buy a hanky of a male hanky used by gents hanky or other, that is around 1 feet square. So for a long-term memory, you can remember this way, that the total area, the surface area of this cerebrum is around the area of 3 handkerchief. Yani ki 2.6 feet square will be the area of around 3 handkerchief. So that means, that's the area of the total cerebral hemisphere, including, and one important thing is, out of those 3 handkerchiefs, 2 handkerchief will be, if you stick this on the surface of the cerebrum, 2 handkerchief will be gone inside the sulci. Only one will cover the outer surface of the cerebrum. That means this 2/3 of the surface area of the cerebrum is hidden deep into the sulci. Only 1/3 of this surface cerebral cortex is exposed on the outer surface. Okay. So that was about this cerebrum. And cerebrum, this is the highest portion of nervous system. It has all the primary centers of sensory motor areas, visual, language, speak areas, olfactory, auditory, as well as the intellect, the speech, judgment, emotionals, psychosomatic, sexual areas, learning, memory, all of it is like confined into this. And this brain also, let me tell you, whatever we teach is only around 30% of the knowledge that has been brought out after research. This brain has yet not been completely studied by the scientists. So that was about the general aspects of the brain. Now we'll talk about the cerebral hemispheres, right? So the cerebral hemispheres, there are 2 cerebral hemispheres connected by corpus callosum, and this is the median longitudinal fissure. In between there is a fold of dura mater called the falx cerebri, which separates the 2, and that reaches down up till the corpus callosum, and over to that corpus callosum it again has this dural venous sinus that is called inferior sagittal sinus. Okay, then these foldings here you are seeing on sulcus and gyri, they are not completely haphazard. You can think it's not like you can draw anything like crooked lines and saying that it's a cerebrum. Being an MBBS first pass out students, you shouldn't expect, it's not expected ki you can draw any zigzag lines and saying that these are the sulcus gyri. They have some of these sulcus and gyri, they are like having relevance, and they are like found in each and every individual. So the complete pattern of sulcus and gyri is not haphazard. It is some, the major sulci, they are same in each and every individual, but there are, majority of the incomplete vague sulci which are differently placed in different individuals. They're unnamed sulci, minor sulci. But the major ones which have their functional significance or structural significance, they are in each and every individual, right? So, right now we will be studying about the surface features of the cerebral hemispheres. And, this cerebral hemisphere is located within the cranial cavity, and the inferior surface of the cerebral hemisphere rests over the floor of the anterior cranial fossa, and that is formed by the orbital roofs. The middle cranial fossa occupies the temporal lobes, while the posterior, that's the occipital portion of the cerebrum, that rests in the supratentorial compartment of the posterior cranial fossa. Okay, and okay, so now let's study about the surface features. So here you are seeing is the suprolateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere, and down below, posterior-inferiorly, you're seeing is the mini brain, that is the cerebellum you've been taught about, and this is the brain stem projecting down and continuing as spinal cord. So as you know, anything which is attached to a stem, right? Because brain this is the brain stem. So like, if you've ever studied in botany, the flowers, the leaves, they also have a pedicles, a stalk to which through which it is attached to the stem. Similarly, because it's a stem, right? It's a stem. So onto this stem, there are two cerebral hemispheres attached. So how will they be attached? With the help of two cerebral peduncles. Through that two peduncles, it will be attached to the midbrain, mesencephalon. Okay. And remember midbrain, I taught you that the two cerebral peduncles, they were anterior to the horizontal line passing through the cerebral aqueduct, and posterior portion was the tegmentum, and anterior one was cerebral peduncles, which are three parts: the tegmentum, then substantia nigra, crus cerebri. All this was called the part of cerebral peduncles. They ascend up to reach the two cerebral hemispheres. Similarly, this mini brain is also attached to the stem of brain stem with the help of three paired peduncles, and that has been taught to you. Now the major sulci, when you see, like, you can place different, you're not here actually, this should have been taught to you in demonstration classes with the real specimens in front of you. So it becomes easier to see the gross specimens. So here you're seeing is the supralateral surface, and can you appreciate some important sulci, right? So there is this sulcus here, you're seeing this one. First of all, look here, let's talk about the poles, right? Let me tell you that each cerebral hemisphere has three surfaces, three borders, and three poles. Okay. This surface here is the supralateral surface. This hemisphere will have a medial surface, right? And that medial surface will be facing the falx cerebri in the medial longitudinal fissure. And you have an inferior surface. Now, inferior surface will be in two parts. The part resting in the anterior cranial fossa or the orbits, that's the orbital portion of the inferior surface, and this much portion rests over the tentorium cerebelli. So this is called the tentorial surface. So yeah, the inferior surface has two parts: orbital and tentorial, supratentorial surface. So there are three surfaces. Now the poles, there are three poles. The anteriormost pole here is called the frontal pole, and posterior pole is called the occipital pole. There is this temporal lobe, right? This temporal lobe is, occupying the middle cranial fossa, and this anterior end of this temporal pole, temporal lobe, is called the temporal pole. So you have three poles: frontal pole, occipital pole, and temporal pole. Okay, so three poles, three surfaces. Now three borders. So right from the frontal pole till the occipital pole, this border here is called the supromedial border, because it separates the supralateral surface and the medial surface. So this border is called the supromedial border. because it has two poles, frontal and occipital. That means it will also have a midpoint. Midpoint of this will be somewhere here, right, near the vertex. That is the supromedial border. Then you're seeing here is the infralateral border. Now, infralateral border here you're seeing is found by the superciliary arches. So superciliary border, you can say supraciliary border, because it is behind the forehead, and the lower margin of the forehead you have the superciliary arches, the eyebrows. On the skin you have eyebrows, in the skull you have the superciliary arches. So that point, this border is also called superciliary border, and this border is called the temporal border. Take. And posterior, temporal or occipital also you can say, because this is the occipital lobe. Then medial surface you're not seeing here. When I'll show you the image of the medial surface, then I'll tell you the other borders. Okay, so then here this midpoint between frontal and occipital pole, there will be a midpoint here somewhere. So the major sulci which you're seeing on the supralateral surface, here you can appreciate it that just a little behind to the midpoint of the supromedial border, you find is a deep sulcus, and that is called the central sulcus. This is the central sulcus. The central sulcus is right, it is crossing or cutting the supromedial border just a little behind the midpoint, and it descends downward, forwards, and reaches a little above to this sulcus, right? And this is called the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. Then can you see, like there is this deep fissure here. There's a deep fissure here, right? Now this fissure is not because of the growth of the brain, rather it is because of an external factor, and that is the lesser wing of sphenoid. Remember, if you see the inside of the floor of the cranial cavity, you will find the anterior and middle cranial fossa, they are separated by the lesser wing of sphenoid. And that means you can, if you see a superior view, if you're seeing the inferior surface of the cranial cavity from above, you will not be able to see the foramen rotundum, right? Because foramen rotundum is placed anteriorly in the middle cranial fossa. And because of those shelf-like projections of the lesser wing of sphenoid, you cannot see the foramen rotundum in a superior view. So that means that, this stem of lateral sulcus is found because of the, mechanical pressure, or because this is, in the fetal life, when it grows, this brain grows, it grows in all directions within a confined cavity. But because of this bony shelf-like projection, there's a deep fissure created, and this is called the stem of lateral sulcus. Why stem? Because it is dividing, it is giving out branches. So this is the stem of lateral sulcus, which on the inferior surface divides this, separates this temporal lobe from the frontal lobe. And this stem of lateral sulcus, when it reaches deep inside, it divides into three branches. You have this anterior horizontal sulcus, anterior ascending sulcus, and a posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus, of which the largest one is the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. So this point is actually called the Sylvian point. This point is called Sylvian point, and this point lies deep inside the pterion. Remember the H-shaped suture on the temple, and below to the temple was the middle meningeal artery, right? and anterior division of the middle meningeal artery and vein, and deeper to that you will find is the sylvian point. Okay, so this is a very important deep sulcus. You can appreciate easily on any of the cerebral hemispheres, and this is the central sulcus, right? I will try to, if you know, I don't know when your classes will start here. I will try to cover up in a demonstration. I'll take a photograph of some videos of this cerebral hemisphere so as to explain you on the gross specimen, because in your Viva exams, these specimens, you know, cerebral hemispheres, they are kept on the Viva table, and you are asked to identify these major sulcus and gyri. So make sure you learn these things because this is a part of Viva also. So this is the central sulcus. Then a little anterior to that, you find is another sulcus, right? Like this one. So this will be a precentral sulcus. This is a precentral sulcus. And similarly, a little behind to the central sulcus, you find another deep sulcus, and that will be a postcentral sulcus. So what you mean now, because let me tell you, like, think and imagine how this is all being formed. Like if you have a closed container and there is only one opening, right, in a container, and through this opening, like, you know, if you've seen in a market where the balloons are sold, so there are different types of shapes of balloons, right? So there are some long tubular balloons, long, thin and tubular balloons. So imagine that, you know, deflated balloon, if you, like, you know, if you pass that balloon, a long one, inside a closed container from an opening, and when it's all inside, then you start inflating air. So what will happen, that long tubular balloon will get inflated and within a closed container from all the sides, and you continuously blowing in air. So because it's a tubular structure, it will inflate, but at a certain time, it will, like, you know, it will occupy the entire cavity. It will have no more space, right? So what will happen, it will start folding on itself. So when it will start folding on itself, it will form these type of sulci, depressions. So in between two depressions, these two sulci, there is a fold of cerebrum which is elevated, and that is called gyrus. So similarly to that example I just told you, these are the sulci, the folds, and the, you know, the deep going inside is the sulci, and what is elevated above is called the gyrus. So these are the folds in between the two sulci is the gyrus. So this will be a precentral gyrus, this will be a postcentral gyrus. Okay. Apart from all, you know, these were the three sulci, then this is the major sulci which you can appreciate, then the branches of the lateral sulcus, and here you're seeing is the parieto-occipital sulcus, although this sulcus is basically on the medial surface, but still a little bit at the supromedial margin you find is this parieto-occipital sulcus also. Okay. And that's why I was saying, you know, some sulci, they have either functional significance or they are because of some, you know, growth of, you know, exuberant growth of certain area of cerebral cortex. So they also have a significance, and some are because of, you know, some are very deep inside, you know, these sulci. Actually, you know, there is a cavity inside this cerebral hemisphere, and that cavity is called the lateral ventricle. You know that. So some sulci are so deep inside, they push inside the, you know, cerebral cortex and the white matter, that they go and indent upon the ependyma of the lateral ventricle. So that sulcus, such a type of sulcus, is called a complete sulcus, right? So I'll tell you, there are different types of categorized, you know, apart from the surface marking of the sulcus and gyri, you should also know that the classification of sulcus and gyri are on the different bases, either on the basis of growth of the nervous tissue, or either base of the functional classification, or on the basis of any external force factors, right? So, or on the basis of the depth of penetration of this sulcus. So different types of classification of the sulcus also you have to study. And see here, they're also seen in the cerebellum, right? Cerebellum also you find, and in cerebellum, remember, they were also like, going deep inside, but not to the complete extent. They go deep inside, and they were cutting the vermis, right, into 9 parts. So that was about this, but there were 2 visible, and they were grossly visible sulcus, and one was this and fissura prima and posterolateral fissure. So that's why cerebellum was divided into 3 lobes, right? Anterior lobe, middle or posterior lobe, and the flocculonodular lobe. That was the 3 lobes of the cerebellum, and there were 8 paired lobules on either side of the vermis. Here I'll tell you that cerebrum has been divided on the supralateral surface, what is visible on outside. It's been divided into 4 lobes. Okay, so let's see how this has been divided. The supralateral surface has been divided for the convenience of study also.